Hello. For those that are watching the VOD at the beginning, my name is Hetty Drago. I tried the streaming life years ago, very early into the streaming YouTube game, but had a bunch of other stuff going on. So I'm back from a giant hiatus in a virtual form. This is just a simple VTuber model, but I hope to gain some confidence in getting back into... Oh, hold on. Shuffle. I have some music going on for myself. Y'all should not hear any of it, which is fine by me. At some point, I'll try to find some like background music that would be good, for everyone to listen to, and me not get copyright stricken, because that would be not great for anyone. So yesterday I started off my first stream yesterday, my official debut, as you will. Although I don't have like a debut video. But I started off just talking about the new Baldur's Gate cards, because my favorite format is Commander. I've been playing Commander since pretty much starting the game of Magic the Gathering. I started, technically, Alara Zendikar was the first time I played. Like, my best friend gave me a Jund deck to run in the tournament, and I was already really good at Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm very smart. So I picked up what was going down, and I did very well in Magic the Gathering tournament. But I had no interest in playing because apparently all the dragons were cycling out, so it wasn't fun. And it's a good thing I did, because I missed out on the atrocious Tempered Steel, what was it? The Jace plus Stoneforge Mystic, all that. I completely missed that format and skipped straight to Innistrad. It was great for me, not for everyone else. And yeah, started with Innistrad around that time. The original Commander decks came out, and I had Mikalia until I lost all my entire collection and a dark backstory that we're not going to get into this video. But Commander is still my favorite format. I like to look at the cards and see what's going on for my decks and any potential decks I want to build. And also in this video, I'm going to jump from what I was doing in the last video, which was kind of try to figure out what the best background partner situation is. So far, I figured, let's see. Adrian is weirdly really good mono white with just himself and Far Traveler, because like if you tap Adrian for anything, I really should actually just pull up these cards while I'm talking about them. Yeah, yesterday I was discussing this, but Abdul Adrian, his best background, at least in mono white, if you somehow want to make a mono white deck, Far Traveler is good, because Far Traveler, what it does is, beginning of your instep, you blink something that's tapped and bring it back, which Abdul, ETB, exile a bunch of things on your board out of existence, get tokens, and then when he leaves, whatever he exiled comes back. So you're essentially like re-blinking Abdul. Little convoluted to speak about, but like that's a really good combination. I forget what else I figured out. I'm gonna pull up more of some of my notes. I really should have actually done this last time. Google Doc. Nya. Doko desu. Where did oh, this one. I hope that wait, did that mess up anything? No, okay, we're good. Alright. So, I'm gonna keep this list up here for my sake. But for like mono white, Abdul is also really good with Inspiring Leader, because he's also a token deck. So make your tokens bigger. Alright. I haven't figured anything out for Eileen, I don't think. I don't know if there was any real good one. Trying to remember what everything does. Blue. Alora was a weird one. I think I had... Let's see. Now let's just jump into like looking at new cards, and if I remember something, I'll remember something. All right. Also, don't mind me. I have some coffee here, so you'll see my model breathe out a nice sigh once in a bit. So the first black card we have is our first black background, Agent of the Iron Throne. 2 and a black, and commander creatures you own have, whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life. And I forget exactly which archetype draft-wise this is. There's a couple of black cards that care about this type of thing. Oh, I think it's black-red. I think red has a few things I care about, and we'll get to them today. I think red also cares about sacrificing things in this set. But yeah, no, there's a legendary we'll get to later, Sivris, I think his name is pronounced, that he ends up, he can sacrifice artifacts or creatures. So completely within the realm of possibility that you get this effect off of Civ or Sunplay. Now, I mean, draft is probably going to be very good because it's draining your opponent for whenever an artifact or creature you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield. In general, actually, it's, well, you control. In a dedicated deck, that's going to be great. It counts tokens because tokens do go to the graveyard. Like, they hit the graveyard, they trigger it, which is fantastic. So any of the treasure decks will also be very solid grab with this. Now, for constructed EDH, not competitive. I don't do competitive or CDH. But I have a large amount of respect for them because I think it's interesting how, like, CDH is almost more fair sometimes than regular EDH just because no one can understand what the power levels of any of the decks are. I would reference Prof's one of his more recent videos in that discussion. It's a Prof and Kenobi, the most latest dice removal, I think. So anyways, would I put this in any of my decks? It's very tempting for my Marin deck, actually, because, I mean, Marin is all about sacrificing my creatures to, like, Phyrexian Altar, not Phyrexian Altar, Altar of Dementia, or Ashnod's Altar, or to any number of other sacrifice effects for greater effect. That's part of her game plan. So I could see that. I could see this being in the deck. And considering Marin is like the most important piece of the deck, Marin is absolutely going to be out most of the time for this to trigger. Obviously, this is not going to be in the command zone because Marin herself does not have... Or, sorry, I should say the full name. Marin of Clan Nel Toth. She is my go-to commander. She's my, after my collection was evaporated, she was the first commander I picked up again, fresh out of the pre-con, and I've never taken her apart. I've just upgraded her all the time. And yeah, I think this might be good for Marin, because she does have, like, a gain and drain strategy to her as well, and this is definitely a big drain if it goes off enough times. In other decks like that, probably a good idea. I feel like this is not good in a deck that has, let's see. What was I thinking? Decks that care about draining, it's in consideration. Aristocrat decks, if there's any sort of aristocrat strategy, this is definitely good for that, because this is essentially another Zulaport Cutthroat or Blood Artist. And thankfully, it is not a common, or else Popper might have had some issue with this card. Moving on. Oh, what What background commanders would be good for this? What do we have so far? Other than Severus. Abdul, sure, maybe. No. Aileen, no. Lizelle, no. Lulu, maybe. Lulu cares about things leaving the battlefield, so I don't see why not. And Rasad Bashir, no, doesn't work with that. Alora, this is me also remembering what all the commanders we talked about yesterday do. Doesn't mesh well with Alora. Doesn't really mesh with Gale at all. It doesn't mesh with Emoan. It doesn't mesh with Renari. And it doesn't mesh with Val. So, but very likely we'll run into something later that this will be good with. Agent of the Shadow Thieves. 1 and a black for another uncommon background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature, the Dethrone cycle of these backgrounds. Whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has more life than that player, Dethrone, put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. It gains Death Touch and indestructible into turn. So, interesting. This definitely favors, we'll talk about draft first. It will favor any of the commanders that care about attacking. So, Rasadun Bashir cares about himself attacking. I'm sure there's others in red. And it puts a +1/+1 counter on the creature. So, you got Rasadun Bashir, who's an 0/3 monk legend, and he attacks with his toughness. So he attacks for 3 rather than attacking for his 0 power. But you get this on it, he'll start ramping up +1/+1 counters. He'll gain Death Touch and indestructible, so no one's going to be able to want to block him. And when he goes to attack, he doubles the toughness of things that I think it's base toughness, now I think about it. Let's look at him real quick. I think so far, I've found the most interesting strategies with Rashadun Basir. And I'm probably butchering that name, so I apologize profusely. I am the exact skin color of my VTuber model. I do not like that privilege, but I understand that my pronunciation of things could be terrible. Where am I? There he is. Whenever he attacks, double the toughness. Just double the toughness in general. It doesn't say base toughness. So yeah, the counter would count. So I think there's a way you can stack the triggers. Going back to the background in question. I think there's definitely a way whenever this creature attacks, you stack the triggers. Have the counter Death Touch, the +1/+1, the Death Touch, and Indestructible happen first. And then Rashadun Bashir will double to, instead of attacking for 3, he'll attack for, instead of attacking for 3 turning into 6, he'll attack for 4 turning into 8. And that'll just ramp up over time. That's fantastic. This will also probably work really well with, well, maybe Alora. No, because if she's attacking, then, and she makes herself unblockable, she's going to bounce herself, and the counter will be irrelevant. Muddling questions. Do I see this going into any sort of construct? Oh, I should say for draft, this is actually pretty solid, I think. For constructed? Well, it is in the colors of Marchesa. Both Marchesas. But Marchesa doesn't really attack, does she? You'd have to have a commander, starting to think of my Vivictus Asmati deck. Would he want this? Probably not. He's already a giant flyer, and he really only cares about getting haste so his effects can start triggering right away. Yeah, No. Not for me. I'm sure there's a deck that could use this, though. Altar of Ball. Ball. Oh, no. It's fine. 2-drop artifact. Let's see. And it has adventure. I don't think we ran into this in any of the other colors yet. But they've experimented this time around with having the adventure mechanic on non-creature permanents, which is fantastic. I love it. Much more design space. Now let's see. Altar of Ball. Starts off as Bone Offering, sorcery adventure that you create a tapped 4/1 black skeleton creature token with Menace. There's Gut, the legendary creature who also makes skeletons. None of it really matters for any sort of synergy, but it's kind of fun to see that. So that's just nice. You get a body. Oh, but it's tapped. And it's a sorcery speed. That's actually not that great. You'd have to, like, want to use the skeleton as sack fodder to get a decent effect out of this. But the card itself is 2 mana, so 2 and a black. Tap. Exile a creature you control. Oh, well. There's where the token's going. Exile a creature you control. Return target creature from your graveyard to the battlefield. Activate only as a sorcery. That's poggin' hell good. Obviously I don't like the fact that you have to exile a creature you control. Huh. I'm kind of wondering with the synergy with, there was a few blue cards that mentioned, hey, there was a sorcery that did this, where it was like +X to your board equal to the amount of instant sorceries and cards with adventure and exile. I assume that it doesn't care if the card can be cast from exile, just that a card with adventure is exiled. So that would be an interesting sort of strat there. You have a bunch, well, adventure decks are probably going about 10 different ways at this point. I don't particularly care for building that type of deck style, but I could see the interest in there. Also, there's utilizing cards that you can cast from exile. There is this one Eldrazi from either Battle for Zendikar or Oath of the Great Watch that you can cast from exile. So you exile that with this, and you're getting pretty much a 2-for-1. As much as the effect is appealing, I don't know if I would... It doesn't say non-token. If my Marin deck was a little more token heavy, I would consider this, I think. I would maybe consider this for my Yorn all creature types deck, because that one does care about creating a bunch of tokens. So it does have tokens for spare. Cool. Ambitions cost. 4-drop, draw 3, lose 3. This is fine. This is draft. This is budget if you really need the effect. Ancient Brass Dragon. Love me some dragons. Of course, this is one of the 2 dragons that I'm not going to be able to put in the eventual Mirim deck that I will build. I think I'll dedicate a video towards explaining all of my commander deck ideas that I have currently, at least. So, Ancient Brass Dragon. 7-drop, 7/6. Solid stats, we'll say, and as a flyer. This is the first one we had revealed forever ago, and I remember people being like, why does it do this effect? I still don't think anyone understands why it does this effect, but it's fine. When it deals combat damage, this is the same text as all the ancient dragons. You roll a d20, and when you do, you put any number of target creature cards with total mana value X or less from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control, where X is the result. I think this is worthy of going into Vivictus, actually. Not sure about Marin. It is a flyer. I don't have, like, Marin has the trouble that it's not able to really get in when it needs to, so this might be a good flyer for her. Also with the upside of potentially returning a Protean Hulk and a bunch of other things onto the board. um, so yeah, good. Probably good for Marin. Probably good for my Vivictus. Because Vivictus, I'm also sacrificing things all the time, and I would like more ways to get stuff back onto the board that are also happen to be giant beat sticks I can get out for free. Not Yorn. What other decks can I think of that this would go in that are not mine? Well, you would have to have the ability to ramp pretty well. I would say mono black would, well, any sort of monocolor deck, you have to plan your ramp wisely, but mono black decks I've seen ramp very well, especially with stuff like Cage Sun and Sword of the Animus and stuff like that. So this could help out that deck. It would have to be something that you mill your graveyard, for sure. Solid card. I like it. I would say the dragons so far, if I was gonna like rank the ancient dragons, the blue one is probably the most powerful out of the three I've talked about so far. I mean, we'll get to the most powerful one later. But I think the blue one is the most powerful, and it's why it's 6 mana. This is probably next, and the white one is not as powerful, but it's fine. Armor of Shadows. Calling out every single Dungeons and Dragon player I ever want to build. This is just your generic, common, way to save your creature spell. It's fine. It's draft. There are, I forget what deck it was. I think it was the new Phoenix from the last New Capenna? Yes, the New Capenna deck with the Phoenix. I think that was the deck where, like, this type of effect is really good in. Arms are Herdar. This is a spell. This is a spell that Warlocks get. I think at level 1? It's been a while. 3 and a black. Creatures target player controls get -2/-2 until end of turn. That's interesting. It is a board wipe. Well, a potential board wipe for all the small duders on one particular opponent. So you target whoever has got a token deck going on. This is going to be nasty in any sort of white-black. Well, if we decide to have this card in constructed, which is probably not going to happen. But if you decide to do that, you bring this in, you have Elish Norn in play, and everyone hates you. Astarion's Thirst. Oh, I love this. I follow a bunch of the developers of Magic the Gathering on Twitter, and one of them, Jamie, I want to say her name is, or their name is. I don't want to get their pronouns wrong, or their name. But they were very vocal about making sure that representation in this game mattered in both Dungeons and Dragons and the Magic the Gathering side of things. And she loves the fact that this exists, that Astarion, the amazing, sexy vampire, just gets a thirst card. And this is not the first time that Magic the Gathering has done this. So, like, anyone that's freaking out about, you need to do your homework. You need to go back to, like, Khanza Tarkir and see the Rakshasa that was just sexily, the Magelli Villeneuve art. Anyways, how do I think about the card? Exile target creature, put X +1/+1 counters on a commander creature you control, where X is the power of the creature exiled this way. This depends on the commander. I mean, exile removal is fantastic. Exile removal for 4 is pretty good. That's pretty on rate. And it just has a very big upside if your commander's in play, which is exactly like why all those free cast commander cards are so good. It's because they're free, because the commander is in play. While this is not free in any way, shape, or form, it gets a big bonus. People are talking about this card for Skullbriar, which is the correct thing to talk about, because Skullbriar is absolutely fun nonsense. One second. Excuse me. If Marin wasn't my absolute favorite deck, if it wasn't my pet deck, I would also build a Skullbriar deck. probably, because Skullbriar is probably the next more fun black-green commander, because it has more interesting things going on, and this absolutely goes in there. What about other decks? I mean, if there's any benefit to you putting counters on your commander, like, say, if the commander that cares about itself being bigger. But if you wanted this in your deck just for the removal, have at it. It's really good. Especially if you're not in white-black. Atrocious Experiment. I feel like this name and this art makes me think it should have been a creature, but whatever. Target player mills 2 and mills 2, draws 2, loses 2 life. For 3. This is fine. This is nice. For any deck in draft that cares about any of these sorts of things, it's good. Blood Money. This is a big one. Literally because of its casting cost. 7 mana for a sorcery. Big deal. It's gotta do something huge. Destroy all creatures. Hey, there we go. So, let's, theoretically, that's a damnation, so that's 4 mana. What's the other 3 mana doing there? For each non-token creature to destroy this way, you get a tapped treasure token. Which is a good thing that it's tapped, because you're not automatically profiting from it. Profiting. Okay. Destroy. Yeah, this is fine. This is good. And yeah, if you're at least able to get 3 treasures, you're making a little bit of your money back from if you were to cast a damnation instead. If you're running damnation, you should think about running this as well. Especially if you're in a deck that doesn't ramp as well as if you're not in green. I would put this, what would I put this in? Should I pull up my list of commander decks? No. I would definitely put this in any deck that's black but does not have green. Which is none of my current black decks. They all have green. Alright. Good card. Solid card. Play it if you want. Bone Collar Cleric. An uncommon 2-drop 2/1 that you can sacrifice itself to return a creature to the battlefield. Activate as a sorcery. It's... I mean, the good news here is... The bad news is that it's sorcery speed. The good news is it doesn't require itself to tap. The bad news is if you wanted to do this as a turn 1 play, you're paying 6 mana? Yeah, you're paying 6 mana if you do this whole thing in a turn, and that would have to be something very, very important for you to get out of the graveyard to do that. Also good news. The creature that's coming back doesn't come into the battlefield tapped, so you can do other shenanigans with it. Interesting. I might consider this for Marin. I think I run, or I used to run, what is it called? 5-drop black Phyrexian thing that you can return, when it ETBs, you can return a creature from your grave to the field and you lose life. This is essentially 1 mana more. You don't lose life. Yeah. This is under consideration for anything that cares about reanimating. Reanimating consistently. Call to the Void. 4 in a black. Each player secretly chooses a creature they control and a creature they don't control. Then those choices are revealed. Destroy each creature chosen this way. Just damnation. Just damnation. This is a fun card. It's kind of slightly a nightmare if you're playing with people that are just bad at this type of thing. Alright. It's fine. It's good. Play it, draft, very good. Constructed, there's better options that don't make you have to secretly choose nonsense. Cast Down is a reprint. It's very good. It doesn't kill the commander, which is intentional, which is fine. Murder's in this set, so... Chain Devil. Just a common old devil. 4/2 ETB. Each player sacrifices a non-token. So it's Fleshbag Marauder. It's an upcosted Fleshbag Marauder. It has one more power and one more toughness than a Fleshbag Marauder. Also one more CMC than a Fleshbag Marauder. And all the other cards that are exactly like Fleshbag Marauder. But they can't sacrifice a non-token. Under consideration for Marin. Pretty solid. If you're in a deck that's similar to my Marin deck, that you're wanting to be trying to sacrifice things all the time and get your opponent's board to sacrifice, or get your opponents to sacrifice a bunch of their stuff, this is under consideration. This is the card I want to talk about most. Hang on. I have to pull up something. Wow. So I went on a full-on discussion with my friend back in Cali on Facebook about, like, how many legendary creatures that are black, that have black in their identity, die to their own cloud kill. Now, obviously, you probably are not. The plan is never to have the commander on the board when you cast cloud kill, but, you know, I think it's funny that this card exists. Just to explain the card. For black, all creatures get -X/-X until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value of a commander you own on the battlefield or in the command zone. So basically, if your commander, let's say my Marin, her mana value is 4, you wipe out all of the X4. But no, literally, oh god, I'm not even done scrolling through my Facebook messages. Here we go. So, funny enough, let's see. The highest CMC mono black card, or mono black creatures, this is what I looked at first. Kuro, Pitlord, and Spirit of the Night are both 9 CMC. They both die to this card, though, which is hilarious. But the biggest black... Here's the interesting bit, right? The biggest commander with black in its color identity is a Name as 1, which is usually very terrible as a commander, but it's 12 CMC. But it does die to this card. Funny enough, so does Progenitus, so does Reaper King. There's a lot of commanders that die to their own cloud kill. Which is exactly how cloud kill works in the game. Let's see. I want to point out a few things that do survive. Obviously, I think in regards to some of the bigger CMC stuff, like, I'm saying like 6 or 7 CMC stuff, that if they don't survive this, they usually have some kind of way to add counters onto themselves. So it's probably, this is going to be good in those decks. Hogak. Right. If you thought Hogak wasn't broken enough, he doesn't die to his own cloud kill. The Mind Flayer Avernox does not die. Reshiel? I forget where that legend is from. That one survives. This one was hilarious to me. So, Silumgar Drifting Death, which is the Silumgar from Fate Reforged. He survives, because he's a 6-drop with 7 toughness. But Dragon Lord Silumgar is 6 mana, 3/5, so it dies. Which is funny, because it's just like Silumgar gets more lazy and somehow he's able to die to cloud kill. But yeah, no. Kolfner survives, Athreos, any version of Athreos survives. Gitrog's a big one. Gitrog survives. Most of the sliver commanders survive, except one, Hive Lord. Sliver Hive Lord does not survive. But I'm not gonna go through the entirety of it. I just thought it was a funny discussion point. Excuse me. Where would I use this? I personally don't have a use for this because everything would die. My commander would die. My commander is the most important. But it's a good option for board wipe if you need one. Our next background, and it's going to be a while till we get to the legendary creatures because the first one begins with an S. Criminal Past. 2 in a black. Commander creatures you own have Menace, which there's only like 2 backgrounds that give like keywords. This and the next one. Menace, and this creature gets +X+0, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Cool. It's fine. It's definitely going to be good in the limited format to just like swing in with your commander. This is not good on Rashad Un Basir, because Rashad Un Basir attacks with his toughness. Might be a May ability. But that's not what you want to be doing. You want to be attacking with your toughness. It's good on anything that's already big. Abdul is 4/4, so I mean this is fine on that. It's an interesting card, that's for sure. I would not put this in any sort of actual constructed commander deck. Unless we find a background commander that works perfectly with this card. It's solid. Although, a part of me thinks that I could put this in my Marin deck because its whole win con is using, like, Gerard or... Well, Gerard is one of the ones. But utilizing sack outlets that drain all my opponents at once. And this... Well, no, because then I would have to sacrifice Marin. No. Cultist of the Absolute. Oh, this is 1 mana? I've looked at this card like about 15 times now, and I've just now realized it's 1 mana. Cultist of the Absolute. 1 black. Background. Commander creatures you own is a plebe. Dizzy why? +3/+3 and have flying, death touch, ward, pay 3 life, and at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. It's interesting. It's definitely a big it's purposefully a big risk reward card. Make your commander, which let's say it's like a big honkin' duder, even a bigger honkin' duder that's harder to kill. It's interesting. I have no personal qualm. Well, is it good in any decks? At the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creatures. The first thing I think of is like Abdul, who comes in with tokens, and then once he I'm thinking. When Abdul runs out of tokens, and he's about to die to this, to sacrifice a thing, you utilize a different card to, but it's commander draft. You're not gonna have the blue bounce spells in white. Oh, you know who this is good on? Alora. This is like the one time that Alora like gets a background that's offensive that is really good on her. So Alora is the gnome. Let me bring up my notes. Alora, Merry Thief. I believe she's I don't have everything on my notes. But when when you go to attack with something, you make one creature unblockable, and then you return that card at the end of the turn. This is gonna be great with her as just like by herself, because she is, I want to say, a 3/2. I don't want to go back and look. But Allura 3/2, you make her unblockable. If this is in play, she is now a 6/5? A 6/5, no, yes. A 6/5 flying death touch that's really hard to kill, and then it's just gonna bounce itself, and it's unblockable. Heck yeah. Love it. Do it. That sounds fun. Also good with Lulu, because Lulu cares about things leaving the battlefield. And is also a flyer. Wait, Lulu's already a flyer. Next, Deadly Dispute is a reprint. It's fine. I wouldn't put it in a constructed deck unless you're specifically looking for cards that... instant cards that allow you to sacrifice things. Elder Brain. Oh. For the D&D nerds like myself, this one is great. Just the big Elder Brain. This is, for those in not the know, this is where all of the mind flayers come from, is the Elder Brain. So, 7 mana for a horror, 6/6. And we've gotten a couple of leaks that I'm not going to talk about because I want to wait for all of the deck lists for the commander decks to be up. But there is a horror tribal commander that's blue-black, so here we go. Elder Brain has Menace. Understandable, have a good day. Whenever Elder Brain attacks a player, which is going to be what it wants to do all the time because it has Menace, and it's a 6/6. Whenever it attacks a player, exile all cards from that player's hand. Then they draw that many cards. So you wheel them. You may play lands and cast spells from among the exile cards for as long as they remain exiled. Oh no. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were mana of... That's crazy. That's very in flavor as well. Because, like, basically the Elder Brain is getting this knowledge from the Mind Flayers, I think. I mean, I like it. It's good. Would I play it? It would have to be a specific deck, for sure. Not for me. Not for me. Not this era of my Magic the Gathering career, but I like it. Aldrick Pack. I actually thought this was a reprint. It could still be a reprint. I don't remember, though. 6 and a black. Target player draws X cards and loses X life, or X is the number of cards in their graveyard. Ah, no. In their graveyard. So, I would have, like, put this in Marin as a kill condition if it was like, target player draws X cards and loses X life, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. No, that was not meant to be. I would have to make Marin into a caring about milling other players, which I don't care about milling other players in Marin. Mill decks eat your heart out. You just found another win condition if you're in blue-black. It's good. It's interesting. Be careful with it, though. You'll probably nuke yourself if you use it on yourself too late in the game. Ghastly Death Tyrant, another Beholder skeleton for 6 mana, 6/5. ETB, you choose either... This is... it's a common. It's a limited thing. You either destroy an enchantment an opponent controls, which is important because backgrounds exist. Or creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn, so you can like swing in and likely get through. Solid. Ghost Lantern. 1 black for the front side, or well, but for the adventure it's 1 and a black. Oh, it's an instant speed for for the adventure side. That's pretty nice. Return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Which, yep, black gets that type of effect a lot. So we like to see it. It's only 2 mana, which is solid. It's instant speed, which is solid. This is going to be good for draft. If your budget, that effect is good for a casual deck. And then whenever it's lantern side, it's an equipment. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. That's a little spicy, actually. And it's only like 1 to cast it and 1 to equip. I mean, it is a lantern. Huh. If I didn't care so much about giving Marin Lightning Greaves as soon as possible, I would consider this, maybe. But she's already fully stacked with options. It's interesting, though. I'm certain there are decks out there that will constantly want to be... Like, it's just aristocrat decks. Aristocrat decks are probably going to be able to utilize this very well. Ooh, bitter. Next. A sled! A salad! Fun fact, I was a dungeon master for 2 of my friends at one point. And one of them wanted to play a sled. Did I let them? I did let them. It had to come with a couple of caveats to it because sleds are, I forget what the caveats are, but sleds are fairly evil. So a gray sled. Pardon, sorry. Whew. Also has adventure. Its adventure side is mill 4 cards. Ooh. I mean, that's not any better than, like, Satyr Wayfinder. Satyr Wayfinder has you mill, but you get to choose a card to keep in your hand. And then his cast, or him as a creature, is as long as there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, he has Menace and Death Touch. I think this is definitely good for limited. I don't know about him being constructed. Unless you're playing a dedicated frog deck. But also horror. He is also a horror. So maybe horror decks want him. Guildsworn Prowler. Why am I so tired? Tuskaroo. Crying from that. Guildsworn Prowler is a 2-drop, 2/1 Death Toucher. Tiefling Rogue Assassin. When it dies, if it wasn't blocking, draw a card. The ultimate sack fodder. Because of space, this doesn't make it into any of the decks that I play, but it is pretty good. If you're budget and you need cards that you want to die for, like aristocrats or sacrifice strategies, this is good. Or Sir Conrad, I think, would like this. Oh no. Trying to wipe my eyes. They're a little wet. Messing up my camera. Okay, we're good. Next we have a hezro. Hezro. A frog demon. Frogs are getting fed. Also adventure. Also common, so it's probably not good, but we'll read it anyway. Each creature that blocked this turn gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Ah, nice. A nice finish them off card. And it's creature side. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control become blocked, each blocking creature. Oh, it's another chub toad. Okay, that's funny. Decent in limited, considering it's a giant 6/6. But, like, I wouldn't put this in a deck unless you're making a dedicated frog deck. Intellect Devour! The evil version of that thing from Shang-Chi. 4 mana for a 2/4 horror. A lot of horrors. Yes, you can take that out of context. Devour intellect. When an intellect devourer enters the battlefield, each opponent exiles a card from their hand until intellect devourer leaves the battlefield. And then body thief. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled with intellect devourer. Is this exactly a reprint? Because I remember we did have... Oh no, we had a spell. We had a spell. I think we had a spell called Devour Intellect, and it was the first half. Ooh. This is nice. You play this with Elder Brain. Mold Folk. 2-drop 1/1 lifelink. Can get bigger. It's a worse carrion feeder. But it does have lifelink. I would consider this for decks that don't have a lot of free sack outlets like Viserys here. Solid for limited. There's murder. Murder is what murder does. It murders. It's good. Merkul's Edict. Edict. Merkul's Edict. 1 in the black. Roll a d20. Worst case scenario. Choose an opponent. That player sacrifices a creature. That's worst case scenario. Depending on who you're targeting, you choose on the die roll resolution, so that's pretty pog. That's pretty okay. Okay scenario, or the most common scenario is that each opponent sacrifices a creature, and then nat 20 is each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power. Ooh, okay. That nat 20 is pretty good. Because you're likely getting a run of everyone's biggest threat. But everything else is kind of mediocre at best. Merkul's Invoker. Merkul. 2 and a black for a cat rogue. 2/3. And it's a mana sink. But it's a mana sink that boosts your whole board. Because I want to say the white Bane's Invoker. That one only targeted one creature, so it wasn't as good. But this, creatures you control get +2/+0 and gain Menace until end of turn. Multiple Menace is redundant, but if you somehow have enough mana, the redundancy here is good. Oh god, what was the thing that I figured out yesterday? Hi! I'm wondering about that as well. There is a way that I can look that up real quick, actually. I think. It'll take me a moment. I remember that blue elf scene 1 copy in Pauper. The blue elf. And then, yeah, that makes sense for Pauper. Pauper tends to get... Also, welcome, John Shivik. If I mispronounce your name, my apologies. I'm going to call you Jan. Let's see. Top 8 MTG. I don't think I can search specifically for, like... I can go to standard. There's this interesting website that I've known about for a while called mtgtop8.com. That you can see top 8 decks from pretty much, like, any era of Magic. Let's see. When did M21 to Kaldheim? Last 2 months. Last 2 months. Whenever they have a search. They do have a search function. Event, deck, player, card. Nah, it's too much. That is an interesting deck topic idea, though, that we could get into. But yeah, no. Actually, another way we can kind of surmise if anything happened with them. Let's see. Going on to something like MTG Goldfish and just looking at the AFR set and seeing if any of those cards are expensive and then seeing what decks they're being used in. Cards. Cards by set. Forgotten Realms sadly had 2 outlandish mechanics for there to see much play and constructed. Manlands are dope though. Very true. The manlands were very good, and it did have a lot of like random mechanics. You are correct on that. Here we go. Forgotten Realms, the set. What has held up value? And this set came out like what? Almost a year ago. And I think it is still technically in standard right now. I would like to see the price, please. Hello? Rarity, Meritus. Gosh. I don't care about rarity. I don't care about mana cost. I don't care about card number. What happened to Goldfish? You can't actually, like, see. I'll show you what I'm saying. So, like, down here, right? It is showing, like, the order of, like, how whichever card is the most expensive in the set, but it's not showing their price, which is dumb. But we got Old Gnawbone, which is probably because of Commander. Loth, which is probably because of Commander. Which is sad since I was looking forward for famous D&D things seeing play in Magic. Yeah, same! Like, Tiamat makes... Tiamat's here. She's number 3. But she's only that expensive because of Commander. It makes sense that she didn't see standard play because she's just so expensive, and dragons are not really a theme in standard right now. Treasure Vault exists. Acerak exists. Den of the Bugbear. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Yeah, the manlands are good. The manlands are fantastic. Xorn, probably because of Commander. But I think there's enough treasure support in the game now, especially with Capenna. Circles of Dreams Druid. It's an elf. It goes in the elf decks. But I don't think that's really a standard thing at the moment. Well, wait, no, Cowtime still exists. Book of Exalted Deeds. Actually, yeah, let's just try to find the highest cost D20 card. Oh, no. Ah, Legacy Aliren. Okay. Very cool. Teleportation Circle, Xanathar, Demi-Lich, Terrask. How much could the Terrask realistically be? Oh, he's $3. We've already reached the $3 area. The dice cards were not good. Mordenkainen, Fighter Class. Fighter Class is the most expensive class? Interesting. Portable Hole, Icing Death. There we go. Deck of Many Things. It is officially the most expensive dice rolling card from AFR. And it's like $2. Yeah. They probably could have done a lot better with providing more interesting effects. And I think that's going to be a similar problem to what happens in this set. Because what I'm noticing from a lot of the D20 cards as I'm going... Merkul's Edict is a perfect example of this, is that, like... I mean, this card is going to be fine in the draft format, sure. But most of the options are not really that playable in Commander. At least to me, at least. And, like, I run Marin. Yeah, fighter class out of all classes. Actually, let's take a look at it real quick. Where did I put it? There it is. This probably shows what... It's also like $2. Fighter class, legal and everything, Dover. Decks using fighter class, commander. That explains it. It's in like Feather decks, it's in Zergo decks, it's in a good amount of Sir Gwen and Arden Rogark decks. Ishin. Interesting. Interesting, cool. Because I remember the hype class at the time was, I think, Ranger class, right? Boy, did that turn into nothing. Is there any... Oh, it seems that Forgotten Realms was one of those sacrifice sets like old Kamigawa, Ixalan to hold power in check. That's a good point. And I think that kind of had to happen because it ended up taking the slot of a core set. And usually core sets are supposed to be not as powerful as any of the main sets anyway. But, yeah, you're right that it's definitely not as powerful as it could have been. Have one. Oh no. I saw that. I saw that little glitch in the system. Everything seems fine. Oh no. Old Gnawbones is like 40. This is like 7. Zorn is like 6. Yeah, no. And let's not look at promo, like the alt arts, because there's way too much of that. We're gonna get rid of that window. It did hiccup for like a moment, but it came right back, which is good. It did that yesterday as well. My internet's pretty good. I probably should check on... Ah, that's a lot. Oh, okay. Oh boy. Oh. I probably need to optimize my opera. Hang on. I really need to learn this stuff, which is good that I'm here to learn. Alright. Oh, yeah. I mean, well, actually, technically the second video. My first video was yesterday. This is a very long tangent story. I probably should make a debut video for myself, but long-time card game player, started with Yu-Gi-Oh, bounced into Magic, and 5 years ago. Another hiccup. What the heck? Hiccup. And yeah, this is my first time streaming on YouTube as well, so I need to relearn pretty much everything. But I felt like this would be a better format. Sign into chat. Oh no, I'm not gonna deal with that right now. Ah, another hiccup, another day. I'm gonna exit out of all of the windows of Opera that I don't need right now. Alright. That should help. And exit out of that. And exit out of that. MTGO? No, I haven't started it. That would be an interesting one. I currently am unemployed. So as soon as I get back to having employment, MTGO is definitely a good option for me because I can essentially just buy all the cards for the commander decks that I have currently and start anew. It'll be fun. I do play a little bit of Arena, but I'm fairly casual with it. Fairly casual. I'm really starting to get back to doing what I love, honestly, which is just chat with people and play games. But MTGO is definitely one of those things that I want to get into, because as much as it's been around forever, it keeps getting better. Yeah, it's not cheap to start. You have to go in with a big pocketbook and a good plan. For me, it's probably rebuild as much of my Marin deck as possible. Very true, because all the competitive players are able to play pretty much every format that exists and be able to test out decks. This is correct. And especially if you're a commander player, because Arena is fine, but Brawl is the only thing that really exists on there, and it's fairly limiting. But you know, MTGO does seem like the one to jump back into once I start having funds again. Boop-a-doop. So I did do a video yesterday where I talked about the white and the blue cards already. Did you have any white or blue cards that you fancied? Just so that we can re-talk about those ones, and then I'm going to move on to continuing with other cards. But also, like, finishing my discussion on this particular card, the Miracle's Invoker. It's a mana sink and limited. It's going to be good. I don't know if anyone in limited is going to get to 16 mana, but if you can pump this twice, that's fairly good as well. In constructed, unless you can go infinite mana and go wide and kill everyone, not sure if it's worth it. Nefarious Imp. Flying 2/1. One or more permanents you control leave the battlefield. Scry 1. Huh. One or more is a big caveat there. Oh, yes, my favorite blue-white card is Judge's Familiar. My previous avatar. Oh, very nice. Judge's Familiar is a fun card. I did play in Standard during that era. Back in... Well, I started with Mirrodin Innistrad, and then right after that was Innistrad RTR. And yeah, Judge's Familiar was an all-star. But I was more talking about if you had a particular blue or white card from this new set that you had your eye on. Don't mind me, I'm gonna have some coffee. I still think it's hilarious that my model does that when I drink coffee. But you know, this, oh. Did I play Mono Blue Devotion? No, but I knew about the deck. I knew about the deck, and that guy was nice. Was a nice little card. I worked at a card shop during the time. Well, not really worked. I didn't get paid, but my best friend had a card shop, and he ran it. And so I saw the little guy a lot during tournaments. And I have an appreciation for the little guy. What was I playing back then? Who knows? You look for blue-white creatures all the time for my Thistledown Modern Janky deck. Ooh. I'm not 100% sure what that is, so I'm going to look it up. Oh. Is it the Duo or the Liege? I'm just going to look at both. Hello? Oh. MTG Goldfish doesn't let you middle click. Sus. Whenever you play a spell, +1/+1 until... I'm assuming it's Liege you're talking about? It's Liege, okay. All the Lieges are good. I remember this. Thistledown Liege. Hog Rider. Oh, okay. Yeah, one of these. Very cool. Oh, I see. Very fun. But nowadays, too low powered for modern, sadly. Modern Horizons 2 ruined modern. Yeah, Modern Horizons 2 ruined a lot of formats. Well, modern specifically, and then I want to say that it introduced something into Popper that was really trash as well. But yeah, no, I have a good friend who I whenever a standard set comes out, I'm like, yo, what's the best thing that's going on in modern right now? Even though I don't really play modern, I like to keep tabs on what's going on in the formats because you get to see how healthy they are. And modern is very fast right now, from what I hear, which is probably not going to be too great in the long run. So I dream Lorwyn coming back in standard so I can brew around lieges again, at least in Pioneer. That's a solid that's a solid dream to have. It is a very well sought after format to come setting to come back. It's actually, I think it's probably the only plane that we haven't gone back to yet, now that I think about it. So we're bound to go back at some point. And yeah, after we're done with the Phyrexian storyline, the world is the oyster for Magic the Gathering lore, so they could totally go back to Lorwyn. Oh, but yeah, this imp is fine. This imp is fine for limited, and I'm slightly considering it for other decks, but it's probably too weak. Next card. Speaking of rolling dice, a Nothic. There we go. Cheating. Actually, yeah, it looks fine. Nothic is a 4 black horror, which eventually one of the big tubers. Oh, Eldraine reminded me of Lorwyn, but Lorwyn is even more fairy tale-ish. That is true. Eldraine is more on the like grim fairy tale, so it's very specific, very like storybook, whereas Lorwyn was like very wild fantasy. Yeah, I remember Nothics. Nothics are crazy fun. This card is okay though. It's 4 and a black, 4/3. Weird insight is its keyword. It's when it dies, you roll a d20, which not the best considering it literally does nothing else. Worst case scenario, draw a card, lose a life. Most of the time, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life. Best case scenario, it's a one-time Grizzlebrand. See, my big thing, I'm big into Commander, as I've said. And this might actually be a solid target for like Marin in my Marin deck, or Vivictus to target and have die so I can get a benefit. It's not bad. It could be better. Weird insight is that mind reading ability that I have in 5e. Sick! Yeah, you gotta love when they have all these very fun references in there. Alright. He's very solid. Depending on what the horror commander deck does, he's probably better than what he looks like. Oh no, this next one. So big thing about me from my Dungeons and Dragons side of things, I ended up one of my first Dungeons and Dragons 5e characters. Her name is Shadowblade, which is probably the most cringe edgelord name you could probably give a D&D character. And I designed her to be Shadow Sorcerer, Pact of the Blade, Warlock. So I have to put this card somewhere. But yeah, no. That character was fun. Basically just summoning up whatever weapon I wanted to. The DM made a mistake and gave me a cube of force at some point. So I just stayed in a cube of force and stayed in the middle and used a whip to hit anything that came within range. Anyways, this card, though, 3 and a black, packed weapon is attached to a creature. You don't lose the game for having 0 or less life. Interesting. Risky. So you started late as a shadow sorcerer, didn't come for a while. I want to say that the fun bit with the campaign I was in, I came in late, so I came in as like level 4. So I think I ended up doing the 3 levels of packed weapon, or sorry, yeah, packed to the blades, warlock, and then 1 level of sorcerer. If I were to do it again, I would do. This is like min-maxing absurdly, but I would do 1 level of sorcerer, do the warlock for 3. No, the warlock for 5, and then the rest sorcerer. But my main idea was I wanted to have this is back when Pact of the Weapon was still Unearthed Arcana. So Pact of the Weapon Unearthed Arcana used to have a Shadow Dog familiar as its level 6, and then Shadow Sorcerer also had a Shadow Dog as its level 6. So I wanted 2 Shadow Dogs. But then they changed the ability. I mean, late as in starting playing D&D some years after its initial release. Yes and no, I think. My very, very first Dungeons & Dragons campaign that I was ever in was back in university. I want to say 2016? 2016, something like that. I randomly joined in another campaign late to the party. But that one was like, how can I be a character from Game of Thrones? How can I be from House Stark? So I just made a ranger, which I didn't realize was a bad class at the time. Actually, yeah, when did 5e come out? It's been a while. It's been a hot minute. I'm just gonna look on my phone. D&D 5e. Oh yeah, 2014. 2014 was when D&D 5e came out. So yeah, kind of like a couple years after the initial release. 2014, yeah. So yeah, I came in slightly late. Yeah. Although I have more experience in Pathfinder 1st edition now. Ended up, when I moved to California, I joined up with a group of friends and they were all playing Pathfinder. Well, we first played D&D 5e, but then we switched into Pathfinder because it's a good rule set. And we tried 2nd edition back with the beta, but we didn't like it. But they are playing it now. They have their own Twitch channel. But they enjoy the in-person games, and since I moved, I'm not part of it anymore. Much respect to them. Anyways, the packed weapon. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, draw a card and reveal it. The creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, and you lose X life, where X is that card's mana value. And to equip it onto anything, you discard a card. Oh boy, that's a lot. Hold on. Let's see. As long... Oh, wait, right. I don't have this on the right spot anymore. Whenever... I mean, this makes me think of, like, necropotence, in a way. Weirdly. Necropotence or Asmodeus. Just because, like, it's drawing you cards and it's losing your life. And that's about it. But it's not... It's a very strange card. I don't know where this would go. Some kind of Voltron deck, I'm thinking. Some kind of Voltron deck that can sustain yourself. Interesting. Interesting. This is definitely going to end up being one of those bulk mythics though, unfortunately. The impetuses are back, and I don't like them. Good day. I don't like talking about those. I think curses are one thing, but oh yeah, it is like Dark Confident. Okay, that makes it a little better. So it makes literally like any creature you have a Dark Confident. A Dark Confident that helps you not lose the game when you hit 0. Okay. Yeah. And mana value as well. Now the question is, let's see. Dark Confidant is just straight up card advantage. But with this card, you are getting a lot of benefits, not just drawing the card itself. You're getting the +X on a... I still think it's like you Voltron up with this. You choose... I feel like it's a... I mean, blue already has enough card draw, so it's probably not going to go on to any sort of blue commander unless it's a mixed color. Limited, this is going to be a powerhouse, for sure. Passageway Seer, 2/2 lifelinking dude that gives you the initiative and gets bigger over time. Solid limited. If the dungeon deck, well, the dungeon decks are getting fed in Commander, but I still don't know if they're actually good. So we're gonna move on. I still have red, green, all the multicolor and the artifacts to go through before all the Commander deck lists are out in like 2 days. Ravenloft Adventurer, more initiative nonsense. If a creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile and put a hit counter on it. Which, fun fact, this automatically goes into a Trotta. It is something like Monarch. Let me bring up the token. Do they have... There it is. Alright. Oh my god. Ads. No. Die. Okay. So the initiative is, you have to play a card to be able to get the initiative. They did include Ravenloft. So they have a cycle of adventurers that each reference a different campaign, and they all grant you initiative. So the white one is and a dungeon card. Yeah, there's a very specific dungeon card for this, and I'm sure that I can find the image for that here too. But so with Ravenloft Adventure or any other card, there has to be something that happens for you to get initiative. An initiative works like Monarch, where it attaches to you as a player, and if someone damages you, whenever one or more creatures a player controls deal combat damage to you, that player takes the initiative, just like Monarch, which is correct. And then whenever you take the initiative, and at the beginning of your upkeep, venture into the Undercity. So they were talking about very interestingly from like a design standpoint why they decided to do this. Because they've been designing a lot of mechanics that over time have been impossible to try to like balance in the future. So they decided with the initiative, instead of having it be whatever dungeon you wanted, to just specifically have it be the Undercity. Important though, is that if you are, in the reminder text it says this, if you're in a dungeon already, so if you're going through Tomb of Annihilation already, you advance into the next room. If you're not already in a dungeon, you enter the Undercity. And then you can take the initiative even if you already have it. Okay? Interesting. But anyways, yeah, no, this card's fun. Or, well, this particular design is fun. Now, let's see if they have a picture of the Undercity. No? When you don't want to search on Google anymore. Undercity of... Oh, it that one. Oh my god. I don't want any of this. I don't want any of this. There it is. Oh boy. All right. We're gonna. This is fine. This is fine. We're jank here. It does. I had it like this because it was the best way to like have the on this side. It was narrow because it was the best way to have the cards kind of just stand on their own or sit on their own. There it is. Okay. But no, Undercity. So the new dungeon, which you have to, and it says it up here too, you can't enter this dungeon unless you venture into Undercity, which I want to say is very specifically from the initiative itself. I don't feel like messing with my resolution anymore. Oh, no. Wait. Nope. Ah, right. Wait. Welcome to Jank Streams with Hattie Drago. Hello? There we go. All right. They are narrow, but they're narrow on purpose so that in the future, if they ever decide to design more dungeons, that they don't accidentally break this mechanic. Which is smart on their part. If a little boring, but it's smart. Anywho. So the Undercity. Yeah, that's why Legacy Allron does not pick this dungeon. They literally can't. They have to be able to play one of the initiative cards to be able to get to this dungeon. So, Secret Entrance is the first room. Search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, shuffle. Good card. Good effect. All these are just basically just good effects. But the last room is a doozy. Forge. Put 2+1/+1 counters on target creature. Solid choice. Lost Well. Scry 2. Another solid choice. Trap. Target player loses 5 life. Solid choice. They are. I'll move. I'm going to move myself again in a second. No worries. And I actually see you on my Streamlabs OBS. I'm still trying to get used to how all this setup works. Actually, you know what? I can actually just whip. There I go. That's better. Arena, goad target creature, which that's kind of important for a lot of the limited format needs. Stash, create a treasure token, which is just the best mechanic in all of Magic the Gathering at this point. Archives, draw a card. Everyone loves cards. Catacombs, make a 4/1 black skeleton creature token with Menace. This is like the third card that has done this. But the big effect you're trying to get to. Also, I can't. I'm starting to flub my speech a bit here, huh? I still think that's funny. Reveal the top 10 cards of your library. Put a creature card from among them onto the battlefield with 3+1/+1 counters on it. It gains hexproof until end of turn, then shuffle. Which is interesting. It could get your big honkin' big dude and put 3 counters on it and protect it till the end of the turn so it doesn't die immediately. But I feel like they should have given it haste. That would have been a little busted, but I think that would have been great. Complete the dungeon, get a giant hasty dude that can't die for a turn. Nice. All right, we're gonna move on from this though. It is a fascinating mechanic, to say the least. And now I have to scroll again. Gosh darn it. Welcome to jank VTuber setups with Hattie Drago. So anyways, Ravenloft Adventurer, one of our rare cycle of adventurers. The other bit is that there is a cycle of these. The white one is White Plume Adventurer, which I'm assuming is another campaign that I personally have not heard of that one, but very cool. The blue one is Tomb of Horrors, which is a reference to Tomb of Annihilation, which I've run. Not to completion, but I've run it. The black one is Ravenloft, and then we'll get to the green and the red one today. Hopefully. We'll see. But, you know, this one, it gives hit counters, which is important in, you know, I guess since I have this open now, I'm just going to utilize it. I don't know how to spell. Aha! I figured it out. Oh, you played Tomb of Horrors in 4E. Very nice. Yeah, no, it's a really fun campaign. So, for this card specifically, if a creature an opponent controls would die, instead exile it and put a hit counter on it. Our good buddy Etrata from the most recent Ravnica sets also likes hit counters. Whenever she deals combat damage to a player, exile target creature that player controls and put a hit counter on it. That player loses the game if they own 3 or more exiled cards with hit counters. So Ravenloft Adventurer is helping Etrata win faster, which is fantastic. But also when Ravenloft Adventurer attacks, if you've completed a dungeon, defending player loses 1 life for each card they own and exile with a hit counter on it. So either way, they're just dying. This is true. This is true. It is more for Curse of Strahd. Because it is a Strahd reference. But I feel like, yeah, the set itself is supposed to be mostly focused on, like, plots from Baldur's Gate, but they definitely left a bunch of other Easter eggs from other campaigns and other locations in Dungeons & Dragons, which is nice. Alright, finally, we are to our first legendary creature of the day, because I've already talked about the white and blue ones yesterday. Safana Kalimport Cutthroat. 2 and a black for a 3/2 human rogue with Menace, which is already very solid, especially for limited. At the beginning of your end step, if you have the initiative, finally, a commander that cares about the initiative, create a treasure token, or create 3 if you've completed dungeon. So this is our dungeon commander. And, she absolutely wants to have the background Dungeon Delver. Not a contest. Dungeon Delver is a blue background that has you trigger rooms twice. It all fits. This is definitely a draft archetype. Don't remember Safana from anywhere. So, one thing I know of, there are plenty of these characters that are from either the video game or different campaigns, but there are a handful of characters that were created specifically for this set to fill up that whole thing. Partly to, to diversify a bit, because there are a bunch of characters that are of different LGBTQ. I don't know the whole phrase. There's a bunch on that paradigm, or that bit. Yeah, so some of these characters are actually from the games. We're gonna skip to the next one, but basically Safana, if you pull her in draft, try to find Dungeon Delver. But Sarevok, Deathbringer, he is the villain of Baldur's Gate 1 video game. So yeah, a bunch of them are references to the video game, bunch of them are references to the tabletop game. Just a whole riddling greatness of references. Some of them are not even from any of these and are just references to D&D as a whole. Speaking of Sarevok, Deathbringer, a 4-drop 3/4. Hey, it's Marin stats. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no permanents left the battlefield, no permanents this turn, that player loses X life where X is his power. Interesting. So basically, if a player on their turn does not get rid of one of their permanents, he deals damage to them. It's a weird little incentive for the opponent to have to get rid of something to not get punished. And it's also interesting for a card in black to not want to get rid of things on opponents' boards directly. Very interesting. What background would be good with this? I'm trying to think of some of the ones from... I have a Google Doc for this. I mean, Noble Heritage is good on any of them if you don't want your commander to die. Nothing from blue specifically. Nothing from black specifically. That's kind of the opposite of the plan. Green. Oh, okay. So you put raised by giants on him, which is one of the green backgrounds. So you have him as your commander, you have raised by giants as your background, and raised by giants makes his power toughness 10-10. I just 10-10'd twice. That's fine. But no, basically then you prevent the board from being able to get rid of anything. Like, you prevent the board from being able to sack anything somehow. And at the beginning of each player's end step, if they don't have anything leave the battlefield, they'll lose 10 life. Or bigger if you get Sarevok to be bigger. That's pretty solid. Alright. Next background option is Sign of Halister. 2-drop, it's a common. The commander creatures you own have the first time you would draw a card each turn. Instead, look at the top 2 cards of your library, put one in the grave and the other on the top of your library, then draw a card. So basically surveil. 2. It's actually pretty decent for a common. I would say this is the background that you choose that if you in the commander draft specifically, if you have a really good pool of black cards, but you don't have any good black commander options, that you could grab this and you'd be fine, and it's good utility. And there's plenty of strategies that want stuff in the graveyard. I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I think it's mostly Commander Legacy, but I could double check. Pauper for sure. What sets? Well, I tried looking this up yesterday as well. I couldn't find it specifically. But yeah, no, I want to say that this is just going to be... None of this helps me. Ah, rule set. Wait, no, that's... Ah. None of this helps me. Plan B. Hopefully this is updated. Nope, I cannot spell. But also, I don't think so. I forget where they said what formats the set was legal in. And for some reason, I can't find it. Which is very poor on Wizard's part for not making that explicitly clear to be able to be put onto a website. But I want to say it's the same legalities as whatever the original Commander Legends set was. Which was just Commander, Legacy format, Vintage, Pauper. I don't think it's going to be legal in Modern. So it will not ruin Modern. Cause there are some interesting artifact sack nonsense things. Which if they were common rarity, I would be worried for Pauper again. Moving on from Scion of Halaster, this is just a good utility. It can go on any of the commanders and be fine. Shadowheart. Dark Justicar. Justiciar. She is also from the video game. I know this specifically. From the third one. Yeah. Legendary, human elf, cleric, half elf. 4-drop, 3/4. Hey, it's Marin. 2 and tap, sack another creature, draw X cards where X is that creature's power. Solid. Solid card. In consideration for Marin, in my commander deck for Marin, let's see. I don't know which background it would be good with. Probably any of the ones that make tokens. Like the Feywild Visitor that makes, dragon tokens. Yeah, so they did this in Forgotten Realms as well. Because human elf just means they're a half elf. I think she is. I don't remember specifically. And yeah, she is from the video games. There she is. No, she's a high elf. The art's just really dark. But she's also, she's a cleric? She's a cleric? Right, her whole thing is, I want to say, in regards to, because Baldur's Gate 3 has this whole romance thing, right? Like, a lot of the CRPGs that exist in video games end up having romance paths. And you really are only able to befriend her if you're down for whatever dark nonsense that she follows her god about. Or something like that. I actually need to play Baldur's Gate 3. That's one of those CRPGs that I haven't been able to pick up yet. Yeah, she's trickery. Actually, let's just go back to that. Could not tell you heads or tails on how any of this affects the video game, but just looking at her from just existing from the video games. Trickery domain, deity is Shar. Shar, deity, worshipped all along Faerun, and one must be selected. One. That told me nothing. Oh, there it is. As the greater deity of darkness, Shar is feared for her power over the night, secrets, and loss. She is locked in an eternal conflict with her twin sister, Selûne, goddess of the moon. Cool. And she has her own attributes here. And basically, this is one of those characters in the game, because it is a CRPG where you're single player and you're picking up a bunch of companions on the way to be able to utilize. And she's one of said companions. But you know, this is a solid card. Yeah. It'll go in any deck that cares about sacrificing creatures. Even though the sacrifice cost is not free, it is still good enough and repeatable. Sigil of Merkul. 3 mana enchantment. At the beginning of combat on your turn, mill a card. Which is pretty good. When you do, if there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control and against Death Touch until end of turn. Oh, hi. Yes, the Displacer Kitten! Ah, oh, that's one of my favorites. Oh, you should have been here for yesterday's video. Yeah, I'll take a look at it again. It's one of my favorite cards in this set. There he is. He's so cute! He's just a little kitten that's playing with his tentacle. The flavor text is amazing as well. Isn't she the cutest thing you've almost seen? Such a cute little card. I'm still trying to figure out, like, I absolutely want to put this in a deck, but none of my decks that I have currently care about anything this card is doing. Someday. I will figure it out. I will break the card. I will not break the card because I'm not a min-max in Magic the Gathering. Sigil of Merkul is a fine card for limited. It's probably also okay in Commander. It is a big mistake to take as a pet. Wait till we get to green. Oh, you're going to be amazed by that one. But it is a mistake to make that as a pet because, what is it? They are their own creature. They're very, very evil. Yeah, no, this Sigil of Merkul is cool. Next legendary is Severus, Nightmare Speaker. I have no idea where this character is from. But he is a snake, cleric, warlock. Which is a lot of... He's a multi-class. That's fun. So, let's see. You tap and... Yeah, this is one of those cards that if this was common, I'd be worried for Pauper. But it's uncommon, thankfully. You tap, sack another creature or an artifact. For each opponent, you mill a card, then return that card from... Oh, yeah. For each opponent, you mill a card. Then return that card from your graveyard to your hand unless that player pays 3 life. Right. Yes. Right. This is like Athreos. The original Theros Athreos. Yeah, he's Wanty, for sure. For sure. For sure, Wanty. I do like I'm big into the artwork of Magic the Gathering as well. I do like the fact that his tail is a rattlesnake tail. I would zoom in, but I don't want to disturb my aspect ratio. Actually, no, that did nothing. This is very cool. This is an interesting card. This, strangely enough, pairs very well with one of the other black backgrounds that whenever you sacrifice an artifact or creature, you drain your opponents for 1. But then you're in a mono black deck. I'm sure there's another card that this works with very, very well. Oh, wait, right. If you're a Feywild visitor, you're making tokens so you can sacrifice the tokens. Good card. Skullport Merchant. This is a reprint from AFR. It is a good reprint, especially for the limited format. And his art is absolutely fantastic. Moving on. Sturg! They put Sturgs in this set. I want to say, do I have it on me? I do. Hold on. There we go. I have... Oh. So, I have on me one of the modules that's not from Wizards specifically, and it has Sturgs in it. I remember throwing those at my party, and they were freaking out. They were level 5, and they were just like, what is this? What is going on? That was fun. The module is it's written by Michael Curtis from Goddamn Games, and it's 5th edition fantasy number 4 Warlock. Not Warlock, Warlock. It's very fun. Anyways, Sturg. It's a little flyer. It's going to be very important for taking the initiatives from someone. And you can, in a pinch, you can sacrifice him and draw a card. Very cool. Summon Undead. Mill 3 cards, then return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Oh, very good. Very good. Very fun. I would say this is a solid replacement for any of the other 5 mana revival sorceries. Because it's fueling your graveyard for more options. You likely play this card in Commander or any format. You play this card if you already have a target in mind, but if a new target pops up, that's even better. Fantastic. Solid card. It's a common too. Solid budget card. Thieves' Tools makes an appearance again. This card was originally part of the... Which one? It was part of one of the Commander decks, I want to say, from AFR. But Thieves' Tools, ETB, make a treasure token, and then equipped creature can't be blocked as long as its power is 3 or less, which has been a lot of the cards in this set. So very solid for limited. Commander as a format, not so much, but still solid. Topaz Dragon. This is part of the Psychic Dragon cycle, or the Crystal Dragon cycle. In white, we had... White was just crystal. Blue was sapphire. And then in red, we're gonna get to amethyst. And then green has... What was it? Emerald. And they all have adventure on one side, which should have been in AFR. They have adventure on one side, and then they're just big old dragons on the other side. And this one... Oh, instant speed. Instant speed, creatures you control gain death touch. Solid. My favorite color. In Magic the Gathering, I'm assuming you mean. Of course. I actually think I'm come around to green being my favorite color in Magic the Gathering. Like, as much as I want to build decks of every color combination, I tend to default to making some variant of green decks. Green plus decks. Big Timmy at heart, one could say. But, if I'm talking like what my color identity is, it's definitely teamer. Blue center, red, green secondary. As I'm very like logical, but I also like nature and raging and dragons. But you know, like my 4 actual built commander decks are all green. So that makes it obvious. Yours is blue, then green, then red. Nice. Then white, then black. If I'm going in order, green number 1. This not color identity, just favorite colors to play. Green number 1. Probably black second, funny enough. I'm more used to playing green black decks. And then red. And then blue and then white, I think. Yeah, sorry. Like, to play, blue and white are not my favorites. Because I don't like playing control decks very much. Like, the closest I'll ever get to control is something that I can also put a bunch of small dudes down and also go sideways. I was playing for a little bit in the most recent Ravnica Standard. I was playing a blue-red, not the Phoenix. No, the Phoenix was not in there. But the, God, Niv Mizzet was in it. Drakes. There was a bunch of Drakes, and there was the little pirate guy. That explained nothing. It's fine. Topaz Dragon is fine. It's a good combat trick early, and then you get a Death Touch Dragon later on. One sec. Sorry, I had a big yawn. I didn't want that to be on the mic. Underdark Explorer. Reference to the Underdark. Just a big menace that takes the initiative. Solid decision. A solid thing. Just a good limited card. If someone desperately wants to be the dungeon initiative deck in an actual constructed commander game, this probably goes in. Oh, this is one of my favorite references, actually. Because back with early... One sec. Back with early D&D 5e, 2016 when I started, 2017, they had the Sword Coast guide. And I really liked that book because of the cantrips. And that's where I learned about this subclass for Barbarian as well. But you have to be a dwarf to do it. It's very, very fun. Vicious Battle Rager, 4-drop, 1/5. And I think he has a pet lizard. When he enters, you take initiative. And whenever he becomes blocked, that creature's controller loses 5 life. Oh, the flavor. I love it. It's very good. And it's only a 1/5. Very cool. Viconia Drow Apostate. Here's our Dark Elves. Oh. I really need to readjust my setup, huh? I liked the weapon cantrips from that book. I did too. My Dungeon Master at the time that I did my Shadowblade build, I had Lightning Lure as one of my... Oh, they were inspired from at-will actions of Sword Mage in 4E. Ah, okay. And that was probably the best way that they could have translated it at the time. I'm glad all those cantrips survived to... Well, like, they do exist, but there's a new book that has them in it as well. But Lightning Lure was my favorite. Ah, you played Sword Mage in 4E. Very nice. In Pathfinder 1st edition, there is a class called Magus. And that's something that I know of is, you know, you play your sword character with your magic character. You mix your chocolate with your peanut butter, and it's great. But Lightning Lure was my favorite spell from there. My DM at the time let me be very creative with it, and I appreciate that. But he let me use it as a way, so long as I made all my dexterity checks, I was able to use it like a whip, which was very fun. Which, yeah, it's not the spell as intended, but I think Lightning Lure should have worked that way in the first place. It would have been fun. Probably too good, though. Alright. Viconia Drow Apostate. 3-drop, 2/3. Drow. Cleric. Of Loth, probably. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 4 or more creature cards in your graveyard, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. It's solid. I don't think it goes into most constructed commander decks, but for limited, it's fine. Vrock? Oh, that was pretty good. That was spot on. So, Vrock, 5-drop, 3/3 flyer that has spores, which is one of its abilities in D&D, I know. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, each opponent loses 3 life. At the beginning of... Interesting. So, this kind of makes me think in draft that you want to get Lulu, who's the white elephant that cares about things leaving the battlefield. And then you get this. And you have more cards that care about cards leaving the battlefield. Very fun. And then we have Zentarium Bandit. 2-drop, 2/1. When it attacks, you pay a life, you make a treasure. Gavin specifically, I remember I was watching his box opening for a little bit for comments. And one bit is that this is an improvement on, there was this tiefling rogue that existed. Oh boy. Sorry, got tired there for a sec. But yeah, no, treasure is good. This card is good. Next up, let's get to red. Let's go fast. First off, we have Amber Gristle Omal as one of our legends. 3 and a red for a 3/3 dwarf cleric with haste. And whenever she attacks, you may discard your hand. If you do, draw a card for each player being attacked. Which is interesting. Considering the draft commander format, it is commander, so you're playing in pods of 4, probably. It's okay. It's okay. I'm thinking to myself about this card. It's not that good. I definitely would never make this like my actual commander in any sort of parallel universe, which is not the point of most of these commanders, but it's worth noting, I guess. Is there any background this pairs well with? Oh, there's the Flaming Fist that when you attack it with your commander, the commander gets double strike, or any of the ones that when they attack an opponent who has the highest life total, they get an effect. Any of those would be fine. She's fine. She's good. There's the Amethyst Dragon. 6 mana, 4/4, fly haster, but its adventure side is, what is it? Deals 4 damage divided as you choose among any number of targets. Okay, that's fine. I'm not mad about that. That's good and limited. I'm not putting it in any constructed dragon deck, though. It's not good enough. Oh, and here's the big boy. Here's the one on the cover. Here's the one that's on the thumbnail. Ancient Copper Dragon. I feel like I foreshadowed this with old Gnawbone earlier. But, like, treasure is broken. Treasure is a broken mechanic. Wizards needs to slow the F down on it before we end up in, like, a treasure flood that we can't go back from. But it's 6 mana, 6/5 flyer, Elder Dragon. That's not legendary, which is a first. But when it deals combat damage to a player, which all the ancient dragons have this text, you roll a d20 and you get that much treasure. It's like, if this guy has haste, which in Vivictus Asmati, he's absolutely going to have haste. In my Vivictus Asmati deck, you put him down, you swing in, you hit the person for 6, you roll the d20, and like you profit if you get more than a 6. That's insane. And then every other turn after that, it's just profit. It's just absolute profit. Like what? Gnawbone creates 1. Where's my Vivictus deck? VTuber glitches while she grabs her Magic the Gathering deck. That's fun. Give me a moment. I could look it up, but I have the deck right here. There he is. Yeah, so to be comparable to old Gnawbone, which is whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. You only need 7. Roll 7 or higher to do the exact same thing as if you were attacking with old Gnawbone, which is below average. That's insanity. Absolute insanity. And also, like, old Gnawbone and Ancient Copper Dragon, you swing with both, you're getting at least, like, 13 treasures, if they both hit, on top of rolling a d20. That's insane. Absolute bananas. Plus, this is a Vivictus Asmati deck. I'm attacking with way more than just 2 dragons, usually. Dang. Yeah, I think this card is already going for like $40. And it's probably gonna stay there. And they stayed there. And it stayed there. This is the card to watch. If you pull this card, you either keep it forever and it'll only get more expensive as treasures become better, or you sell it because you don't want it. We have the Baldur. You shall not pass. Which is interesting. It's interesting that we have the Baldur in this set. It's a 5-drop, 5/5 flying demon that drags a wizard off of a cliff. Kidding. When it attacks or dies, you choose one or more. Each mode must target a different player. So you could do nothing. You could just attack for 5 and do nothing. The 3 modes, though. Target opponent draws 3 cards, then discards 3 cards at random. Gamble. Gamble from Modern. Gamble? I think it's Gamble. Target opponent sacrifices a non-token artifact, which could be good, honestly. If you target someone that only has mana rocks, you're getting rid of some of their mana without looking like too much of an asshole. Oh, sorry. Right. I swear a lot. I try not to. No, I don't. The third mode, Baldur, deals damage to target opponent equal to the number of cards in their hand. which very cool. Punishing the blue player for being blue and drawing too many cards. Baldur is good. Ah, my apologies. Why am I so tired? More coffee, perhaps. No. Oh, sorry, Mike. So, Baldur is solid. I don't know what deck he goes in. Limited, I'll start, for sure. But, otherwise, he's just a good big dude. Bow's Invoker, part of our Invoker Mana Sync cycle. He is a singular interesting. Deals 4 damage to each opponent by paying 8, which is not bad, honestly. If you're able to make infinite mana, you just kill them. That's solid. But in limited is where it's going to see the most play. It's just a good mana sink for the late game. Yeah. Very good. Blood Boil Sorcerer. This has got to be a reference that I don't know about. Whenever Blood Boil enters the battlefield, you take the initiative. And then Crown of Madness, which is a spell. I know that one. 1 and a red, sacrifice an artifact or creature, target creature. Very good. Very fun. Goat is a theme in this set, of course. Breath Weapon is next. Sorry. Ooh. Oh my goodness. What is happening to me? This is like a pyroclasm, but it doesn't hit your dragons, which is good. I mean, most true dragons, big flying nonsense dragons, are not going to get hit by this. But it's good that it doesn't affect small, like the Dragonborn. Very cool though, very on flavor. Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind. This is part of our semi-cycle of dragon casting spell, or dragon mana rocks. They're literally rocks. So the Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind, if you spend the mana from this mana rock to cast a dragon, the dragon has haste, which is bonkers. Oh, I'm peeking. I'm sorry. Let me lower my mic a little bit. That's fine. We're good. Which is insane with that darn copper dragon. You give the copper dragon haste, you're refunding yourself at least a little bit. If you get really unlucky, you're not refunding yourself very much, but you're refunding yourself enough. Oh, dang. All right. Here's our next adventurer of the adventurous cycle. Not necessarily a Baldur's Gate reference, but it is a reference to Dungeons & Dragons campaigns at whole. I don't know what this one is particularly. I'm assuming it's from somewhere later than 4E or earlier. But Caves of Chaos Adventure, 3 in a red, 5/3 trample, enters the battlefield. You take the initiative. And whenever it attacks, exile the top card of your library. If you've completed the dungeon, you may play that card this turn without paying its mana cost, which is the spicy thing that you want. Otherwise, you may play that card this turn. So, let's see. If Prospero decks or the new red-green Wolf Commander deck that might have been revealed, the deck by now, they might want this card. It's good. It's fine. I don't know how many red decks want to be in the initiative colors, though. I need to stop. Jeez. I'm so tired. Coronation of Chaos. It's a common. Up to 3 target creatures can't block this turn. Goad them. Serves many purposes. Best in limited, but there's so many things that are feeding the goad decks that I'm assuming the goad decks are just gonna start actually being a thing that exists. Plus, even if you get to the point where it's 1v1, this is still good. Because you get to prevent your opponent from blocking so you can try to finish them off. Descent into Avernus. 3-drop enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put 2 descent counters on Descent into Avernus. Then each player creates X treasure tokens. And Descent into Avernus deals X damage to each player, where X is the number of descent counters. So if you've known about Plane Chase in Magic the Gathering, I can't remember the plane card specifically, but there is a card in Plane Chase that is basically this. Every time it goes to someone's turn, they take damage, and then the counters tick up, and then the next person takes damage, and the counters tick up. This is basically that, but you're also, each player is making treasure as well. This is chaotic. This is, well, Avernus is the hell equivalent, I think, so this is appropriate. The background of the dragon cultist. Commander creatures you own have, at the beginning of your end step, if a source you control dealt 5 or more damage this turn, create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. Very interesting that they made it 4/4 dragon and not 5/5 dragon to perpetuate that. But there's plenty of ways to deal 5 damage in this format. Oh my god. Oof. Hang on, I'm gonna mute a sec and blow my nose. Okay. Gross human activities over. This is a solid background. It gives me Dragon Master Outcast vibes. Not as good as that card, but it's good. It's also giving me the angels that, you know, when you gain a certain amount of life, you make angels. Would I put this in the 99 in a dragon deck? No? No. Would I put this in the 99 in a Attack Matters deck? Maybe. Maybe. It's okay. Earth Tremor, which is a spell. Deals damage to target creature or planeswalker equal to the number of lands you control. Okay. Solid removal. Limited All-Star, probably. El Terrell Survivors. Has Trample and Myriad, which is a returning mechanic that basically, when you attack with the creature with Myriad, you create... Oh, and if you're in like a multiplayer format like Commander, you create a token that's attacking every other player on the table. So you attack with one, you're attacking with at least 2, well, in a 4-pod, you're attacking with 2 more. And it says here, as long, it's a 0/4 initially, but as long as El Turel Survivors is attacking, it gets +X+0, where X is the number of lands. Lands defending player controls? Oh, that's gnarly. That's gnarly. I love that. That's a great effect. There are going to be Myriad decks. I'm going to talk about the multicolored and colorless cards tomorrow, which are mostly just all the multicolored commanders that exist. But there's like at least one Myriad commander, and this is an auto include. This card is so good. Because like at the very least, if you, at the very best worst. This is a turn 4 play. You play this on turn 4. Round of the table goes. It's turn 5. People have an average of 5 lands, probably more because of ramping. So these are all attacking for 5. Fang Dragon. A 7-drop, 6/3 flyer, but its sorcery side is dealing 1 damage to each creature you don't control. It's okay. I feel like with that effect, they could have made this a Manticore. It would have been an interesting Manticore reference. It also makes sense that Fang Dragon does it as well, because it's covered in spikes. Okay, cool. Furbolg Flutus. We have a Furbolg card, which is absolutely fantastic. Enthralling Performance is its ability here, and it's a lot of words. When he enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature you don't control until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste and myriad. Boy, it's good. It's good for limited. It maybe goes in the myriad deck. I'm not sure about everywhere else. Oh, it goes in any deck that likes to copy creatures and make them into tokens that go away at some point. So you can repeat the triggers. Fireball reprint, because the reference had to be there. Plus, it does end up getting a nice rule book. Oh. Why does that keep happening? Well, doesn't matter. I'm still here. Auto include in every dragon deck ever. For background, you pick any of the ones that care about dragons. End of story. Genasi Enforcers, 2-drop 1/3 with Myriad, and it can fire breathing itself and all the other Genasi Enforcers. This reminds me of one of my favorite limited cards. I forgot its name, but it was the big fluffy dog in one of the core sets that also did this effect, but it didn't have Myriad. Very cool. No Warband. Menace, 6-drop 5/5 Myriad. Solid. Cool. All these Myriads are going to be such a pain in the ass in limited. It's good. Guild Artisan. Commander creatures you own have, whenever this creature attacks a player, if no opponent has Dethrone, make 2 treasure tokens. God damn, the treasure tokens. I wanted to say Ellen, but that would require Ellen to attack. I want to say a lot of the background ones that attack, but or that exist, but they all require this require. That's like the 4th time today. What is going on? Is it YouTube? Is it me? I don't know. I'll have to figure that out at some point. Gut. You pair this with Agent of the Black Throne so that whenever you sacrifice anything, you're draining your opponents. End of story. Very good card. Hoarding Ogre. Solid reprint. Good card for limited. Next. I'm going to try to get... I think I'm just going to finish red and be done, because I'm trying to figure out why I keep blinking out of existence every so often. I am going to try one thing, which is closing a window. Alright, Ingenious Artillerist. My fan is going. That might be part of it. Whenever one or more artifacts enters the battlefield under your control, deals that much damage to each opponent. Solid. Very good. If you're playing Dockside Extortionist, you play this card. If you're playing any sort of artifact deck, you play this card. This is so good. Inspired Tinkering. Exile the top 3 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. Good. Good card. Downside, it is 5 mana to play it. But you do create 3 treasure tokens, so you're refunding yourself. You're essentially paying 2 for this. It's nice. It's fine. It sees play, maybe. Insufferable balladeer. Annoying bard. Fish's Mockery. When he ETBs, target creature an opponent controls can't block this turn, goad it. Goad decks, eat your heart out, take it. It's good. It's solid. Late game, when you're down to 1v1, it's still good because you can get rid of one creature from blocking so you can finish the game. Javelin of Lightning. I hate that you can't throw this. Very not on flavor. But it is a solid card. 2 mana, flash. Enters the battlefield, attach it immediately, and the creature it's attached to gets +2/+0 and first strike. Good combat trick. It's like a mini tiny oh my god, what was the sword? The sword from Eldraine. It's a mini sword from Eldraine. Karlach, Fury of Avernus, one of our only 2 mythic legendary creatures, which is still very weird to me that we only got 2 mythics. And they're both monocolored. For 4 and red, 5/4 Tiefling Barbarian, Karlach, Fury of Avernus. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase of the turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn, which includes the combat that they're currently in. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So this is fantastic. I could see this definitely goes in every single deck that cares about having more than one combat. What you do is this is definitely like the first extra combat that you take, and then when it hits your main phase, you decide, hey, let's go for another combat phase with other cards, and then you start going infinite and you win. That's it. Lightning Bolt repent because they absolutely had to. Live-in Cultist of Tiamat. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, target creature gets +X/+O until end of turn, where X is that spell's mana value. Solid, good for limited, constructed, maybe, probably the 99, not by itself. There might be a blue background that I'm forgetting that it might be good with, but I don't think so. Nemesis Phoenix. 5 mana, is it uncommon? 5 mana for a flying 4/2, and it can come back from the grave onto the battlefield tapped and attacking only during the declare attacker step and only if you're attacking 2 or more opponents. So solid in myriad limited decks. Auto include and Phoenix deck. Phoenix tribal. Pack attack with a bunch of little kobolds. 2 in red, attacking creatures get +X/+O until end of turn, where X is the number of players being attacked. Again, myriad, auto include, and you draw a card. It's a cantrip at worst. Solid card. Next, Patron of the Arts. One of the best arts in the set. 3 mana, 3/1 Dragon Noble, ETB or die, create a treasure. Solid for limited, unsure for anything else. It is a dragon. It is a cheap dragon. So if you are in the universe of needing cheap dragons in your dragon deck, then go for it. Popular Entertainer. 2 mana background. Commander creatures you own have, whenever 1 or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, goad target creature that player controls. So you're only really triggering this on 1 creature a turn, which is not a great rate, but it's still fine. So if you're doing a goad strategy, you go right ahead. Reckless Barbarian, Dragon Barbarian. This is very good. If anyone remembers Emissary. Burning Tree Emissary, that was the name. Burning Tree Emissary was a hybrid 2-drop green-red card from Return to Ravnica. And this is basically that, but only for red. It's good. It's fine. You play it, you probably get some ETB triggers off of it, and then you sacrifice it. And there's a bunch of cards that are in the set that care about you sacrificing things. Solid card. I hate impetuses, so no thank you. Stirring Bard, 4-drop 0/4 defender, ETB, take initiative, and you can give things menace and haste. Oh, wait. Oh, This is under consideration for a couple of my decks. Actually, this is not bad. It's not better than any other haste option, but it gives menace, which in certain games is a big deal. Storm's King Thunder. One of my friends is excited about this card because he's a big spell slinger. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell X times. You may choose new targets. So this will make, at least, if you're casting a lightning bolt, right? That's 3 damage. And you decide to pump this for 5? Let's just theorize. This is 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just theorize. We're spending 9 mana. 8 on this, 1 on the lightning bolt. And then they're copies. So I think it counts for Magecraft, it counts for a bunch of things. It counts for the Rao Zarek from War of the Spark. You're going to be doing a lot of damage. Very good. Street Urchin. Commander creatures you own have 1 and tap. Sacrifice another creature or an artifact. This creature deals 1 damage to any target. Solid. Good. There's a lot of that's in this set. Is it good for constructed? Maybe. Maybe aristocrats want it. Probably not. Swashbuckler Extraordinaire. Another dragon. ETBs. Get a treasure. Oh yay. Whenever you attack, you may sacrifice 1 or more treasures. When you do, up to that many target creatures gain double strike. Limited all-star. It goes in Jolene. It's fine. Next. Taunting Kobold. Just a 1-drop 0/1 haste that goads when it attacks. I want 50 of it. It's adorable. Tavern Brawler. Commander creatures you own have, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library. This creature gets +X+0 until end of turn, where X is that card's mana value. You may play that card this turn. I have it up toughness as well. I was going to consider this for Val, for a blue-red thing, but no, that you can't cast spells off of for mana. It's good. It's fine. I don't know if this goes in Prospero or the new Wolf one, but it's interesting. Thunderwave. I love this card. Thunderwave is one of my favorite spells in D&D. Just big old cube of thunder going whoop and hitting everything. You're rolling D20, worst case scenario, everything, including your stuff, is getting dealt 3 damage, which is fine. I plan on putting this in my new dragon deck, so almost nothing I care about is going to get killed. On average, you may choose one of your creatures to not get dealt damage, and then everything else gets dealt 3 damage. Nat 20, everything your opponents control, creature-wise, are dealt 6 damage, which is ridiculous. This is definitely one of my favorite D20 cards. Tiamat's Fanatics. Haste 4/3 Myriad. Go auto-include in the Myriad decks. Solid and limited. Next up. Two-handed axe. Can I ask you a question? Why, in Spanish, the last set, the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. They have Great Axe. Right? Great Axe was the card that was in the last set. In Spanish, they named it Two-Handed Axe. In this set, we have a two-handed axe. In Spanish, they named it Great Axe. I feel like that could have been communicated better. 2 and a red for an equipment, but its adventure side is an instant speed, giving double strike, which is very good combat trick. And then whenever equipped creature attacks, double its power until end of turn. Ah, okay, cool. Cool. You put this on Sarevok. Wait, no, not on Sarevok. On anything, really. Wand of Wonder, our random red rare D20 card of the set. Is it 4? You pay 4 mana? I should have just been... It is 4. I'm blind. Don't worry. 4 and tap, roll a d20. Each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until they exile an instant or sorcery card, then shuffles the rest into their library. You may cast up to X instant and or sorcery spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Ah. It doesn't say until the end of this turn, so I imagine that this stores the spells for later. X is 1, X is 2, X is 3. This is an interesting card. It's at least fun. Try it out, see what happens. Warehouse Thief. 4-drop, 4-2, 2 untap, second artifact or creature token. Exile the top card of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play that card. Sacrifice theme is very strong. Exiling to cast the thing is very strong. Solid. Wild Magic Surge. This is another example of Chaos Warp. Destroy target permanent an opponent controls, and its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a permanent card that shares a card type with that permanent. They put that card onto the battlefield and the rest on the bottom of their library in a random order. Basically. It's Possibility Storm for in only one instant. It's fine. It's good. Wrathful Red Dragon. This is great. So, flying 5/5 5-drop. Whenever a dragon you control is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to any target that is not a dragon. So, you have this in play. You cast Thunder Wave. Every dragon you control deals 3 damage to something else. So good. So fun. It's like Tolsimir on crack. Will, Blade of Frontiers. There's no dice rolling background, so it's weird that she's a background. If you would roll 1 or more dice, instead roll that many dice plus 1 and ignore the lowest. And then whenever you roll a die, 1 or more dice, put a +1/+1 counter on Will. Solid, cool, plays into the drafting of rolling dice. And then Will's reversal obviously rolls dice. Choose target spell or ability with 1 or more targets, roll a d20, and add the greatest power among creatures you control. You may choose, on average, most of the time, you're just choosing new targets for the spell, but if you get a 15+, you copy it as well. Then we have Young Red Dragon. 4-drop, 3/2, has an instant side that makes a treasure, otherwise it's just a flyer that cannot block. And then lastly for today, because I am losing energy with every sentence. You've been caught stealing. 1 in a red, choose 1. You either threaten the merchant, each creature blocks his turn if able, or bribe the guards. You create a treasure token for each opponent who was dealt damage this turn. But, alright, that is all I have the energy for today. Well, thank you for sticking around if you stuck around. John Shivik, thank you. If you're still here, thank you for joining me. If you're not still here, still, thank you for joining me. Like, I loved having someone to talk to. I will figure out my situation with continuously, hiccuping. I'm wondering if it's an issue with my computer, or if it's an issue with YouTube, or if it's an issue with... I don't think it's my internet. My internet has been really good for the most part. So I would wonder why now it's deciding to be a POS. But, yeah, a little bit of false advertising with the thumbnail. Sorry about that in regards to not being able to get the green cards. But that just means tomorrow I'm just gonna finish the set. And that'll be it. And that'll be good. And then eventually I'll be able to get back to playing Genshin Impact. Oh. Well, have a good rest of your day if you made it this far. Make sure to stay hydrated, make sure to stretch, make sure to go outside and touch some